Hey guys, this is Colin with Colin Talks Crypto. I'm just making a quick video on the subject of taxes. You know, sometimes in my videos I get a little more in the, on the heated discussion, the heated debates. I might drop a phrase and say something like, taxation is theft. And I noticed that I'll get responses, taxation is theft, how could it be? Because who's going to build the roads? Who's going to build the parts of the cities that we need, the bridges? Who's going to make the toll booths? Who's going to be in charge of all that if we don't pay our taxes? And they act like it's the most ridiculous thing they've ever heard to say that taxation is theft because there's these valid reasons for it. Here's the answer. The free market is the answer. The free market can make these things. And I was watching a video with Roger Ver yesterday, and he explained it really well. He took off his shoe, and he held his shoe up in the air, and he said, "Who do you think made this?" And he said, "Did the government make this? No, it was a free enterprise. And do you really think that individuals and individual corporations couldn't come together and make something as simple as a flat piece of ground, a road, or a bridge?" And the thing with allowing the free market to create these solutions is that you'll get better solutions. You'll actually get cheaper and better things because innovation comes with competition. So when you have a government taxing individuals and creating these solutions, and if they're the only ones making the solutions, actually there's no competition. And what you get is worse products, worse solutions, worse roads, worse bridges, and more expensive to the common user. Your tax dollars are spent more inefficiently. And so it's actually a worse solution to have the government take charge of these. It is my opinion that the government should be in charge of these things as little as possible and should, as much as possible, grant the freedom to the citizens and the capitalistic market to create the solutions that are needed for these products. I guarantee you could have 2 or 3 competing companies just in the same way that you have 2 or 3 competing internet companies getting the lowest prices and the fastest bandwidth. And you could do that for the best roads that last the longest, are the most durable, and they're the cheapest. And you would see that if you had the freedom to do so. So no, I do not think that the government should be making those things. And I think that that's a silly argument in favor of the government taxing people, which is A, forceful, and B, creates a worse product in the end. And just to end off on this, here's what Roger Ver has to say.
Here's a question we had.
Yes, they said, "Hi Roger, I'm a huge fan of your content and everything you've done to advocate Bitcoin. I'm also interested in your ideas. I have a question though. If you think taxation is theft, how should a society pay for infrastructure like roads and social services like healthcare without taxation?"
So I have an answer here. Here's my shoe. Right? Murray Rothbard, my favorite economist, has a quote that says there's no government shoe factories, yet everybody still somehow manages to have shoes, and they're not paid for with coercion. And so if people value roads and bridges and hospitals and schools, they'll pay for them voluntarily. And another question is, how do you make a shoe?
I've never made a shoe.
There's no one answer. There's no one right answer. There's a million different ways to make shoes. There's a million different ways to make tables. There's a million different ways to make the camera that's filming this.
Yeah.
There's a million different ways to make roads, bridges, hospitals, and schools as well. So there's no one-size-fits-all answer. So the one-size-fits-all answer is to let people try the best way and figure out what works for them. And the right way to do a school in Japan is probably different than the right way to do a school in London or Moscow or Brazil.
Yep.
And so at the end of the day, how will these things get done? The answer is without violence. They should be done on a peaceful, voluntary basis. And if you want to read a book that really points out this, The Most Dangerous Superstition by Larken.
One of the most interesting books you recommended to me, and it was The Machinery of Freedom.
Okay.
And it kind of outlines a proposed libertarian society and how a libertarian society could structure public transportation, how it could set up healthcare, how it could set up even basic things like policing and the legal system. And it's a really interesting read.
That is another great recommendation. If you want to know specifics as to how roads and bridges and schools could work without having government, go and buy a copy of The Machinery of Freedom.